Have you ever wondered if our technology could have a higher purpose? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating framework that tries to connect our cutting-edge innovations with some pretty ancient wisdom. It asks a big question. Can our tools do more than just make life faster or easier?
I mean, just think about it for a second. We've got these incredible, almost magical tools at our fingertips. But does all this progress come with any real sense of direction? A purpose? The source material we're looking at today starts right here with this exact question. Are we so focused on what our technology can do that we've maybe forgotten to ask what it should do? And that leads us straight to the heart of the matter. The author, Dr. Ahmad Fahmy, he points out this growing gap, this disconnect. The big concern is that as tech moves at lightning speed, it's leaving behind the very ethical and spiritual values that have guided us for centuries. So, here's our roadmap for today. First, we're going to dig into this idea of a spiritual disconnect in tech. Then, we'll look at the proposed solution, something called the divine technology paradigm. After that, we'll unpack the ancient ethical framework that gives it teeth, see the principles that bring it to life, and finally explore what it really means to build tech that's truly on our side. All right, let's jump into section 1. The core problem. Why does it so often feel like our innovation is missing something? Like a soul? The main argument here is that innovation has kind of become its own reward. We build faster, smarter, more powerful stuff. But the big questions are almost always about profit and capability, not really about human well-being. And what we get is a technology of means without any clear end in sight.
Okay, so what's the alternative? Well, the source puts forward a whole new way of thinking called technology rabbani, which you can translate as divine technology. And hey, this isn't about throwing away progress. It's about giving it a new direction.
So what is divine technology? At its heart, it's a worldview where innovation isn't just about making things. It's about serving a higher purpose. It's about creating tools that don't just solve our physical problems, but also make our lives richer, spiritually and ethically, while making sure we're taking care of people and the planet. And this chart really lays out the two different mindsets. You've got the conventional way of thinking, which often keeps science and values in totally separate boxes. It's all about material outcomes. But the Rabbani paradigm, it brings them together. It shifts the focus from being just about us, about humans, to being purpose-driven, where technology serves both humanity and a higher purpose. You know, what's really cool is how holistic this framework is. It says any piece of technology should be looked at from 3 different angles. First, the vertical. Does it help our connection to a higher purpose? Then, the horizontal. Does it actually improve our relationships with each other and with nature? And finally, the dimension of time. Does it help us right now without messing up our long-term spiritual and ethical responsibilities? So this all sounds great, but how do you actually do it? You need a toolkit, right? Well, the source points to a really well-established ethical system from Islamic tradition to act as a kind of moral compass. And that toolkit is called Maqasid Sharia. Now, the best way to think about it is like an ethical constitution or a moral compass for innovators. It's not a list of rigid do's and don'ts, but a set of higher goals all aimed at protecting the things that are absolutely essential for people to thrive. And these goals are actually beautifully simple. They all revolve around protecting 5 fundamental areas of human life. And this table just makes it so practical. For any new technology, you can literally run it through these questions. Does it help preserve faith and values? Does it preserve life? Think medical tech or food security. Does it preserve our intellect, maybe by fighting misinformation? What about family and community? And finally, does it help protect property through fair and secure systems? It basically becomes an ethical checklist for any new invention. So let's see how this whole ethical framework gets boiled down into some actionable principles. You know, things a designer or an engineer could actually use day to day. The source gives us 3 simple but really powerful rules. First, the tech has to be aligned with our innate human nature, or fitra. It should lift us up, not drag us down. Second, it's got to be in balance with the natural world, right? Promote sustainability. And third, it needs to be guided by those 5 objectives we just talked about, making sure it brings real, positive benefits to society. Okay, so this is the crucial part. How do we pull all this together? How do these ancient ideas actually apply to AI, to social media, to all the wild technologies that are just around the corner? The author gives this a name, Fitra Tech. Think of it as a whole new design philosophy. It completely flips the script. Imagine if developers started not by asking, what can we build, but instead asked, what should we build that's actually in harmony with who we are as people and with the planet we live on.
And to make this super practical, the source suggests something called a Maqasid technology assessment. Just think of it like an ethical audit. Instead of only measuring things like clicks, engagement, or profit, you'd actually score a technology on how well it protects those 5 core human needs. It's a way to measure a product's blessing on society, not just its bottom line. When you boil it all down, what this entire framework is really aiming for is a total shift in our relationship with technology. It's about moving from seeing tech as just a tool for convenience or power to seeing it as a way to elevate ourselves, both individually and as a society. Something that makes us better, wiser, and more truly connected. And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. What would our world look like if the measure of success in tech wasn't just about power or profit, but about the amount of genuine good, the blessing it brought into the world? It's a pretty powerful question to think about as we build whatever comes next.